Vancouver Canucks top prospect Jonathan Lekkerimaki continues his dominant U20 season by adding another award to his cabinet, and we get a major report that Hronek may be traded if not signed by deadline. We'll get into that later on this episode, but before I start, I just want to say to the 85% of you guys that aren't subscribed, if you're enjoying this daily Canucks content and you never want to miss another episode, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. We'll be all season long and off season long giving you updates from all around the Canucks, from prospects, game recaps, trades, rumors, anything you can think of. It's completely free, so make sure to go down and hit the subscribe button as we're trying to hit 3,000 before the draft. But with that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Lekkerimaki wins another award. Now, obviously, Jonathan Lekkerimaki, everyone knows I love him. I talk about him enough on this channel, but Jonathan Lekkerimaki wins Young Player of the Year award, and as you can see right here, it's from the EHC Awards 2024. Jonathan Lekkerimaki had one of the most productive U20 seasons in recent history of the SHL, also leading his team in scoring with 19 goals, 12 assists in 46 games, 7 game winners, which was third most in the league, and he was just absolutely dominant for Abro HC. Now, when you do look at obviously some of the awards, not including the one he just won today, but he won Best Junior Player Award, Most Goals by a Junior, Most Points by a Junior, Abro's Most Valuable Player, Swedish Junior Hockey Player of the Year, U20 All-Star Team, U20 World Junior Championship MVP, and he also led that in scoring, and he also won the silver medal with that. It's a mouthful to say. And Griffin, what's your thoughts on Lekkerimaki's season so far?
Very impressive. He's been a stud. He's been amazing. He's amazing on the score sheet, where he's been scoring quite a bit in just a short amount of games. And 7 game winning goals. He's also clutch, third most in the league, and he won the most valuable player. He's been productive. He's been clutch. He's been the superstar that Sweden has been needing to come into the NHL. And I think once he does make that move to the NHL, he's going to light the league on fire. So he's just developing his skills and only getting better and better. And at 19, he's already got 9 awards on his shelf already. He's going to be adding more, I'm sure, in the coming years, whether it's for Abbotsford for a few seasons before going to Vancouver, or right into Vancouver making a big splash with a bunch of rookie awards or records for the record books. Who knows? I think the sky is definitely the limit for this kid. I think his ceiling is very high. I think he's going to have some interesting highs and lows through his career. Don't get me wrong. I know there's a lot of people that's saying he's not ready. We'll get to that in a second. But for the most part, I think Lekkerimaki has started to pave his way in the Swedish league, definitely with his own young legacy. And I think it just adds a lot of momentum for him to carry through into Abbotsford and into Vancouver going forward.
Yeah, because the biggest thing is, and like you were saying, him leading his team in scoring, leading the World Juniors in scoring, this guy is a dominant force. I'm sure everyone's seen the screenshot about 40 times if you've been watching this channel for a while. But just at 19 years old, he's 5'11", and he's just a dominant force. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you can see that his shot is the best of Lekkerimaki's offensive tools, but it's not the only one. You can pause, have a look. You can see all the awards, everything with Lekkerimaki. Obviously, he was a first-round pick, 15th overall by the Canucks in 2022. And the biggest thing is, and I know a lot of Canucks fans are upset on how the power play looked, but just looking at reports on how people looked at him going into the draft, on the man advantage, just give him the puck and you get quality scoring chances each time. You will see goals, obviously, on the man advantage, meaning the power play, and then you see his shot stands out, but he also has an extremely high skill level. This guy offensively is going to be a juggernaut, just waiting for him to translate. Obviously, we've seen him go from the SHL Tier 1 with Abro. We've seen him go to the AHL to play with the Abbotsford Canucks. We've seen him make the short list for the Swedish World Championship team. We've seen him make up the World Juniors. This guy's played a lot of hockey. But Griffin, is there anything you wish you'd kind of just build on his game before making the NHL?
I think there's a few things he has to work on. I think the biggest part that people have to look forward to is the power play. I know Canucks fans and Canucks watchers were just very worried about the power play, and we talked about it many times. Many good things happen when he's on the power play, so Vancouver definitely needs something like that. And many people have called out things that Lekkerimaki needs to improve on before he can make that jump to the league. And I think Lekkerimaki himself has even called it out on things he has to improve on. One-on-one battles against the boards, play around the net. He wants to find areas that he can shoot as he gets the pucks, so he needs to move his feet, and we saw Petey say that too, how he needs to keep his feet moving. Keep your feet moving. You don't stay on an island. You won't get exposed, and you won't get exploited. I think he's going to be doing that and taking away the body more. I think that's interesting to see a guy of his size and stature wanting to play more physical, and I like that. It's very reassuring for a fan, at least, and someone who is very closely watching the Canucks like you and I are, I think having him wanting to be taking away the body more and having a more physical presence as a winger, especially if Dakota Joshua doesn't stay long term or Zadorov doesn't stay long term, having that physical breed that wants to come up and be more physical, I think that's the thing I'm most excited for with Lekkermaki's improvement.
Yeah, because the biggest thing is looking at as him as just a player right now. Offensively, I think he's more than ready to make the jump to the NHL. This is a guy that's a lethal shot. He's a great passer. On the man advantage, he can be a one-man wrecking crew, scoring goals, setting up assists. In the SHL, he looked outstanding. We've seen him in every tier that he's played in. He can do something in man advantage. But like you were saying, he needs to obviously work on being just a bigger player on the ice. And I'm not saying make him grow to be 6'6" like Nikita Zadorov is, but just to be a bigger player, harder to play against. He wants to get stronger defensively. He wants to get stronger without the puck. This is great things to hear from a guy coming over out of the Swedish Hockey League. Watching the games and some of Abro's games, Lekkerimaki was up against great competition. There's physical forces over in the SHL as well, so he knows he needs to get better. And what do you think the timeline might be, Griffin, on him making the Canucks debut?
I think optimistically and potentially unrealistically, you'd love to see him make the team by middle of next season. However, I don't think that'll necessarily happen. I think he still needs a bit 1 or 2 more seasons in Abbotsford before that happens. However, I don't think that entirely rules out the possibility of seeing him play in Vancouver in the postseason next year, barring a championship run by Abbotsford, or if Vancouver makes a deep playoff run and Abbotsford has won the championship by then, maybe he comes in on a reserve part like that. But I think especially with health being such a concern and attrition being the war of the playoffs as well as the mental game, I think if Lekkerimaki is ready and has that preparation all ready to go, I think he's going to be great to have in the playoffs and an asset on the power play where they definitely have needed it. But if that doesn't happen, we would love to see Vancouver in the playoffs. Or if he just doesn't play in the playoffs, I think after next season in Abbotsford, I think he'll be ready to make that jump. And I think when he makes that jump, he's going to make his presence felt.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Like you said, and I love that you brought it up. I think Lekkerimaki has the chance going into maybe the final 3 or 4 games of next season. We might see him jump up, get some time with this Canucks team, especially if he's dominating in the HL. We might see a big run, but I definitely think at 2 years from now, we will see Lekkerimaki make this team full, just out of the gates, and be a full-time top 6 winger. But the big thing is, we could honestly see him make enough of an impact in maybe training camp going into preseason to make himself into this lineup within the first couple of games. Maybe he gets sent down. Who knows? What's your guys' thoughts on Jonathan Lekkerimaki? I'm sure you know my answer, and I'm pretty sure you know Griffin's answer at this point now. But with that, let's hop straight into the second topic today, which is Hronek moved at deadline. So there was a report that came up from Sat on Hronek. He said there's a really good chance for a trade at draft if he doesn't resign by then. That was on Canucks Central podcast. Shout out to them. It's a great podcast. Go out and listen to it. But this is a big thing, Griffin. Like, obviously, a lot of people mix emotions with Hronek. We spoke on it yesterday's video. If you missed that, it pop up somewhere on the screen right now. But with Hronek, this is a right-handed defenseman at the age of 26. Obviously, he's an RFA. But if the Canucks really feel like they can't get him signed, this is a guy who goes to arbitrations. He'll get a big payday, walk him straight into being a UFA in the following season. So the Canucks might lose this guy. Maybe they trade him next deadline. Who really knows? But what's your thoughts on moving him at draft if they haven't figured anything out yet?
I think it'll be very interesting to see because there is a lot of things to figure out. You have Zadorov, you have Joshua, you have Lindholm, Myers. There's so many pieces going around. And I think with Hronek, they can afford to kind of play that waiting game a little bit with him compared to the other guys. Because like you said, if not, you have arbitration, walk him into free agency. But you would ideally want to settle that before it even gets to that point, whether it's making a trade before the draft or re-signing him. However, I think they have bigger fish to fry at the moment. So Zadorov, I think that'll be the first one they try and take care of and then go on to Lindholm and Joshua. So I think it's more likely to see a trade before the draft than a re-signing unless they get some of these other deals done or taken care of.
Yeah, because the last thing you want to do is get this guy in on the arbitration for 1 year, him have a career, outprice himself. Maybe he just wants to go somewhere else if he has a bad season. And in the middle of the Canucks being in their playoff and championship window, they would lose their top right-handed defenseman for nothing. So I'm sure they're going to really just look at everything they can. It's going to be quite interesting over the next couple of weeks on what they do. I mean, they still need to fill out the defense, the bottom 6. And I do really think they still need a top 6 winger if they're playing with Petey, JT Miller. I'm unsure who's going to be playing with who, but they still need more scoring. And if you had to trade Hronek in the next couple of days, what would you be looking at, what position and what type of player?
Well, I think definitely you want to try and keep that defensive core as strong as you possibly can. So if you're in that situation, I would shop him for a right-handed defenseman or even a right winger because there is that worry with Dakota Joshua going away and Elias Lindholm also could be walking. I think they have more depth at center than they do at winger. So having a backup plan at winger and a backup plan at right D, it would be a great chance. Would be a great way of thinking for Vancouver, I think. So obviously you want to have that Hronek replacement lined up so that the core doesn't stay or the defense doesn't stay messed with. But especially with Quinn Hughes, Quinn Hughes definitely tends to play good with just anybody you pair him with. I think Hronek does have something special with him, but again, Hughes is the leader of the team. He's going to play well with anybody. He's going to be that guy who can mesh the whole team together and be the glue that holds it together. So I think if you let Hronek walk, yes, it would be a big opportunity missed because he is so young and still on the blossoming part of his career. But if that is the case, you do have other opportunities where you can bring in a replacement at defense or the right winger that can kind of hold it down physically if they have to let Dakota Joshua walk.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I know Brendan Dillon's name's been thrown around a lot, but maybe you go out and see them get a guy like Chris Tanev in free agency, maybe Tyler Toffoli, whatever need they don't fill from right D or to the winger. I think Hronek will be traded for the opposite. But what's your guys' thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on Hronek? What would you trade him for? What would you be expecting in return? Or would you rather just bring him back on a 7x7 if that's what he's asking for? Let us know down in the comments. So speaking of comments, let's get into everyone's favorite topic, which is comment of the day. The comment today comes from Pitts a Wolf, sub dudes, and shout out to you. Obviously, we want to make sure everyone knows that we are fully and just happy on how everyone's enjoying these videos and subscribing. We're trying to reach 3,000 before the draft, so if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to go down and do that. Leave a comment. Let us know if you subscribed. Let us know anything you guys want to watch videos on or your thoughts on this video. It could be featured on the next episode as comment of the day. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Griffin. Take care.